Dan Conley. I'm Suffolk County District Attorney.
How would you say your office is handling this fallout now from the Annie Dookhan case in terms of hiring folks to review each case, and what are you doing in general right now?
Well, from September, when this crisis first hit, this matter has created a tremendous drain on resources within my office. I have had to establish a new unit in my office to deal with about 18,000 cases. To put that into perspective, on any given year, we handle about 40,000 cases. So you think that we had 40,000 cases in our lap, we get thrown another 18,000. You can see the magnitude of this. We have 5 lawyers assigned to that unit, and we have 2 paralegals working on these cases. And we're managing as best we can, but we are desperately in need of resources. We've made this case to the governor, I think, a reasonable one. We're being very circumspect in the request of money, but we're almost at the breaking point. This was not a problem of our making. This was a problem that occurred at the Public Health Department, at the State Public Health Laboratory in Jamaica Plain. Had nothing to do with law enforcement, but it has fallen on the district attorneys to solve and address these issues, and we need the help. We needed it a long time ago, and it really is becoming frankly unconscionable that at this stage we still have not been resourced to handle this problem.
You've asked for $12 million this fiscal year.
That is correct, and that's as a group, meaning that there are 7 affected offices. Collectively, we felt that just about $12 million will address, at least in this fiscal year, and then we'll take another look and see if we need any more or what we will need in the fiscal years ahead. But we think that's reasonable in light of some of the other, requests that we've heard from other agencies, both in and out of government. So, or at least, we're connected to the court system, let's say, in law enforcement. So, that's what we need. That's what we think will address the problem. And to date, we're dealing with this with existing resources. But it has created a tremendous, tremendous drain on our system.
And it'll likely go on for years. So it's $12 million now, but it'll likely go on for a couple
Well,
of years.
That's an interesting question because, as I mentioned in today's session here, this panel, a lot of these defendants who were, let's put that in quote, affected. In other words, Annie Dookhan was a chemist on their case, either primary or confirmatory, have long since finished their sentences, have long since completed their probationary schemes. Not that they don't deserve to be addressed, but perhaps they don't need to be at the front of the line, because the people that need to be at the front of the line are the people that are incarcerated now, the people that are on probation now, the people that are on parole now. Those other matters can wait and may be able to be handled with existing resources down the road.
But you have done that. You've already focused on the folks who were incarcerated, who had liberty issues.
Yes, every single person in Suffolk County who was in jail, that is in prison, in state prison, in the House of Correction, or being held at Nashua Street pending resolution of their case. Every single case has been addressed. Every one of them was, most of them, I should say, were released. Some of them may be still held on bail, but it's a fractional number. And they're on GPS, most of them. And they're also under certain curfew restrictions and the like. But every one of them has had their case stayed pending the full investigation here.
How many is that total, do you know?
In our office, it's 168, I believe, just around that number.
And in terms of most of those folks, so most of them have gone back into Boston under GPS monitoring and curfews and other probationary conditions.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also curious to see how you feel about how this might affect you in the future as we now deal with some of the secondary cases. You had said today that you're in somewhat of a holding pattern. What do you expect, can you describe what that means for you right now, and what do you expect is going to happen down the line?
Well, first, the Attorney General is conducting a criminal investigation of Annie Dookhan's conduct. So she has not completed that. We have gotten about 6 different reports, progressional reports about Annie Dookhan's conduct, so we can fully and firmly understand what exactly Annie Dookhan is alleged and accused of doing, and what the credible evidence suggests she did. Secondarily, the Inspector General has been tasked with a stem-to-stern review of the laboratory itself, procedures, policies, operational procedures that were in place there, supervisionary issues, and he is going to issue a report at some point that will talk about the lab, and put it in the context of other labs around the country. It probably will not be good. I don't want to prejudge it, only because when I came to understand that public health laboratory was not accredited by any national agency, certainly that gives me pause, compared to, say, the State Police Crime Lab or the Boston Police Crime Lab, which is peer-reviewed, which goes through an accreditation process, which is ASCLD, accredited. But we'll wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see to what the Attorney General. So that's why I call it a holding pattern. I cannot make full and fair decisions on these cases until I know all of the facts.
You emphasize that that it was a public health lab.
Oh, yes. I think it's important that the public understand that this laboratory was under the control of the Patrick administration, the Health and Human Secretariat, and the Commissioner of the Department of Public Health. And it was underfunded, and it was under-resourced, and it was, in many ways, a stepchild of the public health structure. I mean, I went over there one time to visit and speak with lab personnel well before the Annie Dookhan matter, because the delay in getting a report back from the lab was growing and growing and growing. So when I was a young prosecutor in the 1980s and 1990s, it might take 2 months, 30 days, 60 days to get that report back. As district attorney in the early part of this century, it was taking 9 months. And by the time the Dookhan matter, broke, it was taking a year. Now, defendants justifiably were screaming bloody murder. I want to, move forward on my case, but I don't want to wait any longer. And judges were frustrated and taking it out on prosecutors, quite honestly. They were insisting that we call the lab, expedite sampling and so forth and the like, or flat out dismissing cases and putting the public at risk. So I say this, that, the Department of Public Health has a lot to be ashamed of, I think, the way they supervised, the way they organized, the way they conducted themselves as a laboratory, and that falls on the shoulders of upper level structure. They didn't do a very good job what the public had asked them to do.